David, where do I start investing? The $1,000,000 question that so many people have asked me over the years, my friends, my family, people who know me, people in the professional field. David, where do I start? That's what a lot of people don't know, right? Where to start? People are usually not used to investing, especially in Spain or in Spanish-speaking countries, where in this regard we are far behind, since financial education is either non-existent or terrible. So, to these people I say, first of all, you need to identify what type of investor you are. There are mainly two types of profiles. One profile is someone who has absolutely nothing saved and has to start from scratch, because they're a person who spends everything they spend, everything they earn, and they don't have the habit of saving. And then, on the other hand, there's the profile of someone who has some money saved, but inflation is eating away at that money, at the value of that money. And they keep saving, but they don't know where to invest it, and they have some money set aside. Let's say $30,000 or more. So once you've identified which type of profile you are, of course, there's also a third profile. But that's the profile of someone who is already wealthy, and as we'll see at the end of the video, things are much easier for that person. But usually 95% of people fall into one of these two profiles, especially the first one more than the second. This is the person who doesn't have any money saved, who has to start from scratch, who still has everything ahead of them to do. I always tell you, when you start working, your first job, whether it's at 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, it doesn't matter. When you have your first job, your first income, start developing the habit of saving. At least 10% of what you earn at a minimum. Oh, but I can't save 10%. Yes, you can. There are many expenses you have every month that aren't necessary. Cut out cigarettes, cut out alcohol, cut out partying, cut out expensive clothes, cut out the luxurious whims you don't need, and that will mess up your future. Get rid of all these kinds of crappy unnecessary expenses and focus on saving at least 10% of what you earn. And where do I start, David? I would start, as I already told you, by sacrificing 5 years of your life saving, and the money you save, imagine you earn 1,500 euros a month, that's 150 euros or $150. That's the minimum you need to save. Where do I invest it? Invest it in a savings account. Invest 100 euros or dollars in the SP 500, in an ETF in the SP 500, in a savings account that invests directly in index funds. Invest $50 or euros in Bitcoin for the long term. Bitcoin in 4-year cycles has proven that it always wins. The SP 500 in 10-year cycles has shown that it generates at least a 10% annual return. That means at a minimum, you double your investment every 10 years, not even counting compound growth, which makes the returns even greater. And when you've been saving this way for 5 years, little by little, you might even do it in less time. If you manage to develop the ability to generate more income, on the other hand, or if you manage to save more than 10%, you might achieve it sooner, but let's say 5 years, because this is something that many of you can accomplish with small habits, since setting aside 10% of your income to think about your retirement is really nothing. So you save this money in these types of savings accounts, SP500, Bitcoin, etc. And you let it grow. Once that money has grown, you become profile number 2. And profile number 2 is someone who has at least $30,000 or euros or more saved from 30,000 and up. This profile number 2, what they have to do is, first of all, do exactly the same as profile number 1, which is to take at least 10% of that income and save it in the same way. A savings account, not a regular savings account in the bank in dollars or euros, because inflation will eat it up. No. When I say a savings account, I mean an investment fund, where you invest in SP 500 ETFs, shares of large companies, or, for example, in Bitcoin. That's what I mean. So profile number 2 is going to do, first of all, the same thing as profile number 1. That habit cannot be lost. You have to maintain that habit until you retire the habit of investing 10% of everything you earn. But profile number 2 has the ability to do something that profile number 1 does not, which is to invest in real estate. Why with 30,000 or more? Because you're going to need to have some money to buy a property. In case you apply for a mortgage, first you need to understand that at least here in Spain, they usually only grant mortgages starting from 50,000 euros or dollars. That is generally for a property valued at less than 50,000 euros or dollars, you won't be able to get a mortgage. So let's assume a mortgage where at a minimum, they have to give you a value of 50,000 euros or dollars. For that, you'll be looking for a property that costs you around $70,000 or a bit over 60,000. But let's say $70,000. Let's assume that they finance 80% of that amount. Usually they tend to finance 80%. It's true that there are cases, especially if you're younger, where they might finance a bit more, like 90%, or even in some cases for certain profiles, they might finance 100%. But even so, even though it's difficult, you still need to have savings for taxes. Because if you buy a property, at least here in Spain in your own name, as a private individual and not as a company, they will charge you 10% in taxes. That is, if you buy a property for 70,000 euros or dollars, you will have to pay 7,000 euros or dollars in taxes. That money comes out of your own pocket, so you need to have it saved up. Those 30,000 euros or dollars will serve to complement the mortgage on one hand, and on the other hand, they will help you pay the taxes. So for a mortgage of 70,000 euros or dollars, for a property worth 70,000 euros or dollars, you will have to contribute 20% of that, which would be $14,000. 10% of 70,000 would be 7,000 and 20% would be 14,000. So out of those 70,000 that the property costs, you will have to contribute 14,000 yourself, which will come from the 30,000 you have saved. And then in addition to those 14,000, you will have to pay 7,000 in taxes. So we're already talking about 21,000 euros or dollars gone in an instant, but now you own a property. The property you're going to buy won't be a brand new place, ready to move into or at its highest market value. No. You're going to buy a property that's a bargain. You're going to buy a property that is undervalued, a dirty property, a property with things that are broken, a property that needs a facelift, a property that people overlook because they think, what a piece of crap this is. But with your work, your effort, and a good renovation, you'll be able to give this property a makeover and increase its value, so it appreciates. That property cost you 70,000, but with a good facelift, it could end up costing you more. It could end up costing you around 110,000, more or less. 70,000 is what the property cost you. Add 7,000 in taxes that you paid. So in reality, it has cost you 77,000. And then on top of that, add the 9,000 euros or dollars that you have left from those 30,000. After paying your share of the mortgage, after paying the taxes, you have 9,000 left. You're going to use those 9,000 for the renovation to give it that appreciation, that facelift. In the end, 70,000 plus 7,000 in taxes, that's 77,000 plus 9,000. Now we're talking about 80-something thousand dollars that you've ended up spending on that property. But we're talking about that property, once you've given it that facelift, having a market value of $110,000. You can easily sell it for $110,000. What are you going to do? You're going to sell that property for $110,000. You're going to get $110,000 in the bank. From those $110,000 in the bank, what are you going to do? You're going to pay off the mortgage. You're going to recover your investment. From the profit you have left, you're going to pay the capital gains tax. In other words, you're going to pay part of the profit in taxes, and you'll be left with approximately, let's say, about $20,000 or euros. What happened here? What's the magic? That your savings pot at the beginning was 30,000 euros or dollars. Right now, after this operation, your savings pot is $50,000. You're going to do the same thing again. You're going to look for another bargain, another opportunity, and you're going to do the same thing again. But this time you have more capacity and you can invest more. You can get a slightly bigger property. You can spend more money on making a better renovation, and the asset will appreciate even more, which means you'll add even more value to the property. And this time, instead of $20,000 or euros in profit, you'll make 30,000. So you do the same thing, cash everything out, pay everything off, and you have the 50,000 you had saved up in this second round, plus another 30,000 that you've earned as profit. 50,000 plus 30,000 is already 80,000. From here, what happens next? Now you can make the move a third time, but with the difference that this time you can do it without needing to take out a mortgage. You could take out a mortgage because in the end it's good debt that you're using to do business with a relatively safe asset, and you'll be able to pay it back. But you have the ability to do it without having to mortgage yourself, without owing anything to anyone. Let's say you choose this option of taking out a mortgage. You do the same thing. You buy an asset yourself without taking out any kind of mortgage. You renovate it, sell it, and this time you make another 30,000 in profit. 80,000 that you had plus 30,000, 110. Now you have 110 in profit. You're going to do the same thing again, but this time you're going to do it differently. This time you are going to take out a mortgage on one of the properties. You're going to do it with two properties at the same time. You're going to mortgage one and not the other. Or you can mortgage both if you want, but you mortgage one and not the other. And you speed up the process. With each of these two investments, you make 30,000. You recover your 110 that you had, plus 30,000, plus another 30,000, and now we're talking about 170,000, because 110 plus 30,000 is 140, plus another 30,000. Now we'll be moving on to a higher figure, right? In other words, now we're talking about an amount of money that already allows you to create a snowball effect much faster. Until the moment comes when you can do this 3 at a time. And this is where the real move comes in. When you buy properties 3 at a time, of every 3 properties, you're going to keep one. That is, you'll buy, renovate, and sell one to keep making money. Another one, you'll buy, renovate, and sell to keep making money. The other one, you'll buy, renovate, and rent out. You're going to keep it. Now you start to increase and grow your assets. And you do the same thing again with what you made from the other 2. You buy 3 more, sell them, and buy 3 more. You do the same thing, buy 3 more, and keep 1 to rent out. The others, you buy, renovate, and sell. You do the same thing again, keep 1. And what's happening here? On one hand, you're generating money with this process of buying, renovating, and selling. And on the other hand, you're increasing your assets. And those assets are also generating rental income for you. Each one of these properties is bringing in rental income. That rental income increases your ability to save. because obviously you're earning much more money. Now, you're not just earning your previous salary, you're also receiving rental income every month from each of these properties. And what do you do with that rental income? The same thing. You take that rental income on one hand, you save as much as you can, and on the other, it allows you to accelerate all your investment accounts, all your savings accounts. You can invest more money every month in the SP500, in your savings account. You can invest more money every month in Bitcoin. You can invest faster in everything. It gives you more security. It generates more cash flow for you every day, every month in this case. And you start increasing your purchasing power while continuing with a snowball effect. There comes a point when instead of doing it with 3 properties at a time, you might be able to do it with 4 at once. In the end, you have to keep one thing in mind here, and that is the time factor. Each of these steps, buying, renovating, and selling, is going to take you a minimum of about 3 months, a minimum of 3 months, and a maximum of however long you want to take, right? It depends on how long it takes you to renovate a property and how long it takes you to find a buyer to sell it to. That really depends a bit on you, right? On your ability. But you have to estimate that each of these steps will take you at least 3 months. But that's actually a pretty good time frame, because over the course of a year, you can make several moves. In the end, imagine that by doing this kind of deal, you manage to, let's use an average, a conservative average. I say conservative because I've seen that it can be done easily, since I've done it myself, and that's an average of acquiring 1 property per year. So if in this process of 3 deals you keep 1, let's say that in 5 years you have 5 properties. There comes a point when you have 5 properties that are generating rental income for you, and there comes a point when you have this business model of buying in a staggered way that keeps growing and expanding. And in reality, within a period of 5 years, you have achieved X amount in the value of your assets, X amount in rental income, and a business model that works for you. So in 5 years, with just a savings of $30,000 or euros, you have managed to achieve the coveted financial freedom and have embarked on an adventure, a cycle where things just keep getting better. And in the end, well, it's just a matter of time. Give it another 5 years, and your lifestyle, whether you started out with no assets at all, could make you a millionaire, because you'll have assets worth more than €1 million or dollars. And every month you'll be receiving a solid income, which could very well be more than 10,000 coming in each month. In countries like Spain, you can live very well on 10,000 a month. So what are we seeing here? We're seeing this type of profile. A profile that first has to start as profile 1 and move to profile 2, which might take 5 years to go from profile 1 to profile 2, but then there's profile 2. And for profile 2, going from 0 to financial freedom could also take 5 years. Therefore, profile number 1, going from being profile number 1 with 0 savings, 0 of everything, to achieving financial freedom, can do so in a relatively conservative way within a period of 10 years. This is to achieve financial freedom, which means having economic stability, having a certain amount of wealth, and being able to live off what you do without a boss, without anyone telling you what to do, without schedules, without anything living off your investments, living off your assets, and being able to do whatever you want, whenever you want, and with whomever you want. That is financial freedom. But from here, what are we seeing? That in just 5 years or 10 years, 10 years for profile number 1, 5 years for profile number 2, and that's being conservative, they have managed to achieve that financial freedom. And we are seeing that with this type of a strategy, once you have everything running smoothly, reaching the level of being a multimillionaire is much easier, because once you've achieved financial freedom, which may have taken you 5 or 10 years from that point on, reaching the level where you say, wow, I'm going to grow this to a much higher level, becomes possible. And that in assets, you have millions of euros or dollars in real estate holdings, and that you have millions or hundreds of thousands of euros saved in your savings funds, in the SP500, in Bitcoin, in index funds, or whatever it may be. And that you also have additional income coming in every month from rents at that point. Your life is set, and so is your children's, with small habits, small steps, and a healthy routine, like investing a little bit every month on one hand, and on the other, venturing into the world of real estate investment, which in the end is something that will always generate income, because everyone needs a place to live. And I always tell you, I pay attention to where the big players invest, where the banks invest, where investment funds put their money, where BlackRock invests. BlackRock invests in properties. It already owns more than 60% of all properties in the United States, and is now coming to target Europe, aiming to acquire properties here in Europe. They're coming in aggressively, coming with money to buy up properties in Europe. Why is that? There must be a reason, right? If BlackRock is interested in buying up most of the houses, apartments, and properties on the planet, there must be a reason. So where am I going to invest? Where BlackRock invests. Where else is BlackRock investing? They're investing in gold, they're investing in the SP500 or in SP500 companies, and they're investing in Bitcoin. So am I going to invest in these as well? Yes. Besides, once you have everything set up and you achieve that financial freedom, you can also start adding gold. It's easier to buy gold. You can say, well, I don't know, you go to a gold dealer, to a trustworthy gold company, and boom, you buy gold. Obviously, it's better to go to a dealer, right? You're not going to go to a gold mine shop, because they'll charge you a huge commission. You're going to buy real gold, right, so to speak. But To get to that level, well, you need to reach a higher level of financial freedom, right? I mean, it's not that easy to buy gold. That's why I don't include gold from the very beginning, because going to buy physical gold is more complicated. However, buying Bitcoin or the SP 500 can be done with just one click. And what's more, here on this channel, over the next few weeks or months, I'm going to show you how to do it so that in an automated way for all of you who are lazier or who aren't able to stick to a routine. For example, every first day of the month, I'm going to invest 100 euros in the SP, 500 and 100 euros in Bitcoin, because you might say, I forgot this month, something unexpected came up, whatever, any excuse. So that you don't have that excuse, I'll show you how I do it. Because for me, every first day of the month, boom, the first comes around and it's automatically deducted from my bank account. I have everything set up so that on the first day of each month, it's deducted from my bank account. Everything I invest in those types of investment funds is done automatically. That way, I don't have to worry like, oh, it's the first of the month, I need to invest in my savings account, in my savings fund. No, it's deducted automatically. And I'll show you so that all of you can have it set up with your bank account so that every first of the month, on the first, you invest. So you don't fall into the temptation of saying, oh, and this month, what if instead of investing it in my savings account, in my savings fund, I spend it on prostitutes, or I spend it on drugs, or I spend it on partying, or I spend it on a little treat, or I waste it on stupid crap. To make sure that doesn't happen, because that's a screw up. To prevent that from happening, I'll show you how to automate it. This way, all of you will have the habit of saving automated. Boom, 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 boom. Every first of the month, boom. You can schedule it from the 1st to the 10th of the month. Usually investment funds go on the 1st or the 10th. The 1st or the 10th, whichever works best for you, you decide, and they deduct it for you. They deduct it from your bank account. You see, oh, I've already invested this month in my savings fund. I've already invested this month. That way, it becomes automatic and you don't fall into strange temptations. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I bid you farewell. If you found the video useful and you liked it, I would appreciate it, as always. If you give it a like, subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends, because in the end, I believe this is valuable content. It's something anyone can do. As you can see, I'm not sharing something here that you'd say, wow, nobody can do this. This is only for privileged people. No, this is for anyone, no matter what family you're from, what neighborhood you come from. I mean, I don't accept excuses from any ethnicity, any culture, any religion, any marital status. In other words, it doesn't matter. Anyone can do this. No matter how old you are, whether you're 18 or 70 years old, anyone can do all of this. So there are no excuses. Like this video, follow me on my new Instagram account that we created, Ohana Finanzas, since we're posting content there every day as well. Also follow me on Ohana Finanzas Oficial on Telegram, where I keep you updated on everything. And remember, if you also want to learn about investing in cryptocurrency in an easy and free way, join Ohana Trading Club VIP, my private trading club with our professional trader, who is giving free classes every day for all of you, teaching you how he operates in the market, sharing his signals, his strategies, sharing everything, doing live classes with you. And above all, it's free, meaning we will never charge you anything. It's an academy that is 100% free, a private investors club that is 100% free, and we've already been running for more than 2.5 years. So I encourage you to join, and we look forward to seeing you inside. A hug, and see you next time.